Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. We love to really dig into stuff that can help you level up online. And today we're talking all about conversion rate optimization,
Yeah.
or CRO for those in the know.
CRO.
We actually got a really cool guide from listener. It was sent in by Mohammed Tuafekyapan. I hope I'm saying that right.
Sounds right.
Awesome. So Mohammed's a growth marketing expert, and he breaks down CRO in a way that's, I think, super helpful for anybody who's got a website or really any online presence.
Yeah, he does a really good job simplifying it down to the things that really move the needle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whether you've got a blog, an e-commerce store, a landing page, whatever it is, we all want people to do something when they get to our site, right? We want them to sign up. We want them to buy something. We want them to, join our community.
Download something.
Download something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we get them to do that thing that we want them to do?
Well, so that's where Mohammed's, expertise comes in, and his system is great. He kind of whittles it down to this idea of a CRO triangle.
Oh, okay. I like visuals.
Yeah.
So tell me about this triangle. What are the sides?
So the first side of the triangle is visitor intent.
Okay.
And this is a really, really important piece because you can have the most beautiful website in the world. You can have the most amazing offer, but if the wrong people are seeing it,
Right.
you're not going to get conversions.
You could have the best vegan burger recipe website in the world.
Yeah.
But if you're showing it to hardcore meat eaters, it's not going to work.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. You have to get in front of the right people.
Mm.
So visitor intent. You have to be attracting the right visitors to your site.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we make sure we're getting the right people?
So a big part of that is understanding your ideal customer profile.
Okay, I've heard that term before. What does that really mean?
So your ideal customer profile is really about figuring out who those people are. What are their demographics? What's their age range? Their location? What are their interests? What are their pain points?
What are our goals?
What are their goals? Yeah. So you can picture who you're actually selling to, because once you can picture them, then you can build a site that appeals to them.
It's like you're creating it with them in mind.
Exactly. You're not just throwing something up there and hoping that the right people find it. You're actually tailoring the entire experience to the people who are most likely to convert.
Right. Okay. So I think we have got visitor intent down. The right people are hitting the website. What's the next side of this triangle?
Okay, so the next side of the triangle is value proposition.
Ah, yes.
And this is really all about differentiation. Why should someone choose you?
Over everyone else?
Yeah, over everyone else.
Right.
It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking that your product or service is self-explanatory. I built this amazing website. I sell these amazing widgets. But you have to really think about, why should someone choose your widgets versus the million other widgets out there?
That's so true. You can't just assume people are going to understand what makes you special.
Right.
You have to tell them.
Yeah, you have to make it crystal clear.
And not just tell them, it has to be obvious.
Yeah.
Right? If I hit your website, it should be bam.
Yeah.
This is what makes us different.
Yeah, front and center. Mohammed talks about weaving this value proposition throughout your entire website experience.
Oh, I like that. Weaving it in.
Yeah.
Not just a little blurb on the about page.
Yeah.
Right? It's everywhere.
It's in your headlines. It's in your images. It's in your calls to action.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the right people coming to the site. We have got our value proposition super clear. So we're 2 for 2 now.
Yeah.
What's the final side of this triangle?
So the final side of the triangle is usability.
Oh.
And, you could do all the work to get the right visitors to your site. You can have the most amazing value proposition.
Right.
But if your website is clunky or confusing or slow,
yeah,
people are going to bounce.
Oh, I've been there so many times. You get to a site.
Oh, yeah.
And you're oh, I'm actually interested in this. But I can't figure out where to click.
I can't find what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Or I click on something and it takes forever to load.
And we're all so impatient these days.
We are.
Right? I am gone if I don't get what I need in 2 seconds.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Or if I'm on my phone and it's not working.
Oh, don't even get me started on mobile sites.
Ah, mobile is so important.
It's 2025. People are on their phones. You've got to have a mobile-friendly site.
And Mohammed is really big on that. He stresses that usability is just as important as the other two sides of the triangle. You can't ignore it.
Okay, so we've got our CRO triangle, visitor intent, value proposition, usability. I'm starting to get the big picture here, but how do we actually like put this into practice? Like, where do we start?
So Mohammed's really big on research and analysis. Like CRO is not about guessing.
Okay.
It's not about just making changes and hoping for the best. It's about really understanding what's happening on your site.
So we need to like put on our detective hats.
Exactly. We need to become data detectives.
I love that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so how do we investigate?
So there are two main types of data that Mohammed talks about. You've got qualitative data and quantitative data.
Okay, I always get those two mixed up. Can you like break those down for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So quantitative data is all about the numbers.
Okay.
It's things like how many people are visiting your website, where they're coming from, what pages they're looking at, how long they're staying on each page.
So it's like the what of what they're doing.
Exactly, the what.
Okay.
But to really optimize for conversions, we also need to understand the why.
Oh, okay.
And that's where qualitative data comes in.
So what falls under qualitative?
So qualitative data is more about understanding user behavior.
Or
Why are people doing what they're doing on your website? And Mohammed talks about some really cool tools for gathering this kind of data, like session recordings and heat maps.
session recordings.
Yeah.
So is that like we're watching people browse our site
Yeah,
like Big Brother?
pretty much.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The technology now, you can actually watch recordings of real users interacting with your website.
So we can see like where they click, where they get stuck.
Exactly.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, you might discover that people are clicking on an image that they think is a button,
Right.
or they're getting confused by a certain form field.
Oh, that would be so helpful.
Yeah, it's really valuable information.
Okay. And what about heat maps? You mentioned those. What are those?
So heat maps are another really cool tool. They basically show you where people are clicking, scrolling, and hovering on your website.
Okay.
So it's a visual representation of user activity.
So like if my call to action button is like glowing red hot, that's a good sign.
Maybe?
Maybe.
It could also mean that people are clicking on it, but then not actually converting. So it's important to use heat maps in conjunction with other data, like your session recordings, your Google Analytics, to really get a full picture of what's going on.
That makes sense. Okay,
Cool.
so we're gathering all this data, we're watching people browse, we're looking at these heat maps. What do we do with all this information?
Well, once you have the data, then it's time to analyze it. Look for patterns, look for insights.
Become a data detective.
Exactly. And Mohammed recommends using a technique called funnel analysis.
Okay.
And basically what this does is it helps you visualize the steps that users take on your website.
Okay.
And you can pinpoint where they're dropping off in the process.
So if I'm seeing like a ton of people bailing out of my checkout process after they've added items to their cart, that's a red flag.
Huge red flag.
Like Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's telling you that something is wrong with your checkout process.
Right. It could be anything.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Maybe the shipping costs are too high.
Maybe it's confusing.
Maybe it's too many steps.
So many possibilities.
Yeah. Exactly. But the data helps you pinpoint where the problem is.
Awesome. Okay, so we've done our research, we've analyzed the data, we've identified some problem areas. What's next?
So once you've identified the problems, then it's time to come up with a hypothesis.
Ooh, a hypothesis.
I feel like I'm back in science class.
I know, right? Back to the scientific method.
Okay, so how do we come up with a good CRO hypothesis?
So basically, a hypothesis is an educated guess about how a specific change might impact your conversion rate.
Okay.
So it's not just about saying, I'm going to change the color of this button and see what happens.
Right.
It's about saying, based on what I know about my users, I think that changing the color of this button from red to green will increase conversions by 10%.
So it's like a data-driven prediction.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Okay, so give me an example, maybe from like your own experience. Like, have you ever used this hypothesis approach?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
So one example that comes to mind is I was working with a client who had a landing page for a free ebook download.
And they were getting a lot of clicks on the download button, but the actual download rate was really low.
Oh, interesting.
So we started digging into the data. And what we found was that a lot of people were abandoning the page right before entering their email address.
Huh.
So our hypothesis was that the form was too long and intimidating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to fill out a novel just to get a free ebook.
Exactly. So
Huh.
we shortened the form to just ask for their name and email address. And guess what?
Download rates went up.
They skyrocketed.
That's awesome.
It was a simple change, but it made a huge difference.
So it's all about like identifying those friction points
Exactly.
and just smoothing them out.
Make it as easy as possible for people to convert.
Okay, so we've got our hypothesis. What's the final step in this CRO process?
So the final step is testing.
Testing.
You got to put your hypothesis to the test.
Okay.
And this could involve A/B testing, where you
Yeah.
create two different versions of a page and see which one performs better. Or it could involve other types of testing, like multivariate testing, where you test multiple variables at the same time.
Okay, so it's all about experimenting and seeing what works.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the key is to measure the results of your tests,
Right.
so you know whether your changes are actually having a positive impact.
So we're not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks.
No, we're being strategic.
Yeah.
We're using data to inform our decisions.
So I'm loving this whole CRO thing. So we've covered like the basics of CRO.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there are some nuances when it comes to specific types of websites, right? Like what about landing pages?
You're right. Different types of websites require slightly different approaches.
Okay.
So with landing pages, the main goal is usually to capture a lead
Okay.
or to promote a specific offer.
Right.
So you want to make sure that your landing page is super focused.
Like laser focus.
Laser focus, you got it.
Okay.
You want to eliminate any distractions
Okay.
to make it as easy as possible for people to take the desired action.
So it's all about streamlining that path to conversion.
Exactly. And there are a few key things to keep in mind when you're optimizing landing pages.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Hit me with your landing page wisdom.
All right. So first of all, your value proposition needs to be front and center.
Front and center.
Got it. You want visitors to understand the benefit of taking action within seconds of landing on the page.
Okay.
And you also need to think about above the fold content.
Above the fold, meaning like what they see before they scroll?
Exactly.
Great.
Especially on mobile.
Oh yeah, mobile, super important these days.
That's so important.
Right? Like nobody wants to be scrolling forever to find what they're looking for.
Nope.
Okay, what else?
Then you've got your hero image or video.
Oh yeah,
This is your chance to really grab attention.
it's like the first impression.
Exactly. Make it count.
Okay.
And of course, we can't forget about the call to action.
The call to action, like the button.
The button, the
Yeah.
link, whatever it is that tells people what to do next.
Right. So it's not enough to just have like a tiny little button hidden at the bottom of the page.
No.
It needs to be like clear and obvious.
Clear, obvious,
Compelling.
and maybe like a contrasting color so it stands out.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our landing page optimized. We've got people clicking on our big, beautiful button.
Awesome.
What about e-commerce stores? Like those are a whole different beast, right?
They are a whole different beast.
Because there are so many steps involved.
Yeah. You've got people browsing products, adding them to their cart, going through the checkout process.
Shipping, payment. Like so many things could go wrong.
So many places to lose people along the way.
Exactly. So where do we even begin with e-commerce? CRO.
Well, that's a great question. And you know what? We're actually running out of time for this part.
Oh, no.
I know. But the good news is we're going to dive deep into e-commerce CRO in part 2.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Sounds good. Okay, so e-commerce CRO, right? Where were we? Yeah, so many moving parts. With e-commerce, I feel like it's a whole different ballgame than like a simple landing page.
It is. And that's why this CRO triangle that Mohammed talks about is so valuable, because it gives you that framework to like break down the complexity.
It's like a roadmap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no matter how many steps are in your funnel, you can always come back to those 3 core elements.
Is it your intent, value, prop, usability?
You got it.
But I still feel like a little overwhelmed. Like, where do we actually start with e-commerce? Like, is it different than what we talked about with landing pages?
It's the same principles, but the application is a little bit different.
Okay.
So remember how we talked about data being like your secret weapon?
Oh, yeah. Our detective hats.
Exactly. Well, that's even more true with e-commerce because there's so much data to track.
Right. Like, we've got page views, add to carts, checkouts, abandoned carts. Like, it's a lot.
It is. And that's why Google Analytics is like your best friend here.
Oh, yeah. Good old Google Analytics.
It can be a little intimidating at first, but once you learn how to use it, it's like a goldmine of information.
So what are we looking for in Google Analytics?
So one of the most important things is to track your funnel.
The funnel.
Right.
Okay.
So remember we talked about funnel analysis?
Yeah, like mapping out each step of the customer journey.
Exactly. So you can see where people are dropping off.
Right. So if I'm seeing like a huge drop-off between adding to cart and starting the checkout process, that's a problem.
That's a huge problem.
Like something's scaring people away.
Yeah. Something's stopping them from completing that purchase.
But how do we know what it is? Like, is it the shipping cost? Or maybe the form is too long? Or maybe they just got distracted?
Well, that's where those qualitative tools come in.
Oh, right. Like the session recordings and the heat maps.
Exactly. So you can actually see what people are doing on those pages.
I love that. It's like we're little spies.
I know, right? You can see them hesitate over a button.
Or like their mouse goes over something and then they change their mind.
Yeah. Or maybe they scroll down to the reviews and then they leave.
It's so valuable to see that actual behavior.
It is. Because it gives you those insights that you just wouldn't get from the numbers alone.
Okay, so we're looking at our funnel. We're watching session recordings. What else can we do to get those juicy insights?
So another thing that Mohammed recommends is using targeted surveys.
Oh, surveys.
Yeah. And you can get really creative with these.
Right.
Like, you could have a survey that pops up when someone's about to abandon their cart.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's stopping you from completing your purchase?
Exactly. And you might be surprised at the responses you get.
Right. Like maybe they couldn't find a coupon code.
Or maybe they had a question about sizing.
Or maybe they just got a phone call and got distracted.
It happens. But those surveys can give you some really valuable feedback.
Okay, so we've got Google Analytics. We've got session recordings. We've got surveys. Anything else in our CRO toolkit?
So Mohammed also mentions a couple of other tools that can be really helpful for e-commerce.
Okay.
One of them is Google Data Studio.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Is that the one where you can make those fancy dashboards?
That's the one.
Okay.
So you can really visualize your data.
I love a good visualization.
Yeah, and it can help you spot trends and patterns that you might not otherwise notice.
Okay. What else?
And then another tool that he recommends is Bard.
Bard. Oh, yeah, Google's AI.
My one and only.
Yeah.
So Bard can be really helpful for like summarizing research.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like if you've got a ton of customer feedback or survey responses, Bard can help you pull out the key themes.
There's like having a little research assistant.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got all these great tools, but at the end of the day, it's all about understanding our customers, right?
Absolutely. The tools are just there to help us.
Right.
The real magic happens when we can combine that data with a deep understanding of our target audience.
So it's like we're using the data to inform our decisions, but we're not letting it dictate everything.
Exactly. We still need to use our intuition and our creativity.
Right. Because at the end of the day, we're marketing to humans.
Yes. Humans with all their quirks and complexities.
Exactly. So even if we have the perfect website and the perfect funnel, there are still going to be those external factors that we can't control, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like what if our competitor launches a huge sale?
Or what if we get a bad review?
Like those things can really throw a wrench in our plan.
I can, but that's just part of the game.
So how do we deal with those unexpected curveballs?
Well, we can't always control the external factors.
Right.
But we can control how we respond to them.
Okay.
So if a competitor launches a sale, maybe we offer a different kind of value.
Like free shipping.
Or a bonus gift with purchase.
Or maybe we just double down on our amazing customer service.
Right. It's all about being flexible and adaptable.
And what about those negative reviews? Like those can be so discouraging.
They can. But the important thing is to address them head on.
Don't just ignore them.
Don't ignore them. Respond to them politely and professionally.
And try to learn from them.
Exactly. Because sometimes those negative reviews can actually give you some of the best insights.
Right. Like maybe there's something you're not doing well that you didn't even realize.
Yeah. So don't be afraid of those negative reviews. Use them to your advantage.
Okay. This has been a lot of information.
Yeah.
Like my brain is full of e-commerce, CRO knowledge.
I know, right? It's a lot to take in.
But it's so valuable. Like this is stuff that can really make a difference for our businesses.
It can. And the best part is that it's an ongoing process.
Right. It's not like we just do this once and then we're done.
No, it's all about continuous improvement.
Always testing, always learning,
Yeah.
always optimizing.
Exactly. And you know what? We've actually got a few more nuggets of wisdom from Mohammed that we're going to share in part 3.
Oh, awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick breath and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and ready to like wrap up this whole CRO extravaganza. I have to say, I'm feeling pretty pumped up. Like, I feel like I could go optimize all the things right now.
That's the spirit. I love that energy. And you know what? I think that's one of the things that Mohammed does so well in his guide is he really makes CRO feel approachable.
Right. It's not like this super intimidating technical thing. It's like, okay, I can actually do this.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that it's not about being perfect. It's about being better than you were yesterday.
Right. Like progress over perfection.
Exactly. And one of the things he talks about that I think is so important is this idea of a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that term before. What does it mean in the context of CRO?
So it basically means that you're always open to learning.
Okay.
You're always willing to experiment.
And you're not afraid to fail.
Exactly. Because failure is just part of the process.
Right. It's like those failed experiments, those are actually giving us valuable data.
They are. They're telling us what doesn't work.
So we can focus on what does work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So embrace those failures.
Turn those lemons into lemonade.
There you go.
Okay. So we've talked about the CRO triangle. We've talked about data. We've talked about testing. We've talked about mindset. Is there anything else we need to know before we unleash our inner CRO ninjas on the world?
Mohammed does have a few final thoughts that I think are worth sharing.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay some CRO wisdom on me.
All right. So first of all, he emphasizes that CRO is an ongoing process.
Right. We talked about that.
It's not a one-time fix.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
Okay.
Exactly. You're never really done optimizing.
Because there's always something you can improve.
Always. And your customers are always changing.
Right. So what worked last year might not work this year.
Exactly. So you got to stay on your toes.
Always be testing. Always be learning.
You got it.
Okay, what else?
And then he also talks about the importance of focusing on the user experience.
Oh, yeah. That's something we touched on earlier.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, CRO is all about making it easier for people to do what you want them to do on your website.
Right.
So if your website is frustrating to use,
People are going to bounce.
they're going to bounce. They're going to go to your competitor.
So make it easy. Make it enjoyable.
Make it delightful.
Ooh, I like that. Delightful.
Yeah. Because when people enjoy using your website, they're more likely to convert.
And they're more likely to come back.
And they're more likely to tell their friends.
It's a win-win-win.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we've officially covered everything there is to know about CRO.
I think so. I think we've done it.
We've climbed Mount CRO.
We have. And you know what? I'm so proud of us.
Me too. This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has. And I hope our listeners are feeling as inspired as I am.
Yeah, I hope they're ready to go out there and optimize all the things.
Optimize all the things.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to add? Any final words of CRO wisdom?
Well, just remember that CRO is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
So be patient, be persistent.
And never stop testing.
Never stop testing. You got it.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I think it's time to say goodbye.
It is. Until next time.
Happy converting, everyone.
Happy converting.